Jersey Congressman, House Homeland Security Committee member Jeff Van Drew. I'm back with us all morning long this morning, Dagan McDowell and Steve Forbes. Congressman, it's always a pleasure to see you. Thank you so much for being here. We've got these aerial shots, Congressman, of the Donna holding facility, which, of course, this was the facility that Ted Cruz tweeted about, where there were 4,000 people in a building that was capable of holding 250 people. It was a terrible sight. And then last week, I got a chance to go into the migrant facilities, and I actually took pictures of the Delphi unit where they were housing 17-year-old boys. Look at this complex. It is so much bigger than initially because HHS set up these additional tents. So, Congressman, they are not stopping the flow of migrants coming into this country. They're not stopping the drugs, the narcotics coming in every day, but they are building more housing to facilitate those people. Your reaction?
Maria, this is everything that's wrong with public policy. This policy towards the border doesn't have one good aspect about it. Number one, we're hurting kids. Literally, as you just explained, I mean, the drug cartels are taking advantage of this. Children are being used and sold. They're being sexually abused. They're dying in certain cases. There's disease. There's so many problems just with the children alone. And supposedly this was an administration that was concerned about a more humane way of dealing with the problem. Yet before, we had an agreement with the Northern Triangle. We had an agreement with Mexico. We were making sure that we had strong borders and continuing to build the wall. Let me be clear. A country, in order to be strong, in order to be independent, and even in order to properly help others, must have strong and good borders. You just can't have people bleeding into your country from all over the world. And these people really are coming from all over the world. We're spending money on flying them around. We're spending money on putting them up in different places, hotels, etc. We just did a bill recently, I don't know if you noticed, Maria, that would provide legal facilities for them. And that bill, which unfortunately passed, I voted against it, would be another $1 billion all in all to do that if it passes through the Senate. We are breaking the rule of law. It's just everything that is wrong. I don't know how you could do much more that would be much worse.
Well, I mean, look, I was at the border. I took a helicopter flight. I took a boat trip to really understand what's going on here. And you know what I really want to do is connect the dots, Congressman, because we can talk all day about what's going on at the southern border, but what's really important is how all of this stuff gets to the interior of the country. Border agents told me that they found 70 pounds of fentanyl, 100 pounds of heroin, 1,000 pounds of meth, 40,000 pounds of marijuana. And these drugs get here from Mexico on the southern border, through the southern border, and then they go and they reach New York within 2 days. Listen to what the head of the Department of Public Safety told me about New York's biggest problem right now. Take a listen.
It's not remaining in Texas. A lot of that's headed to New York and other cities throughout the nation. So we know, working with the New York City Police Department, that their major threat to organized crime is really no longer the Cosa Nostra, the Bonanno family, or Genovese. It's really the Mexican cartels.
Think of the port in New York or any other port that is on the receiving end of something that's legally exported from another country and imported into the United States. It remains in New York for a day or two, then it's shipped across the rest of the country. It's exactly what happens with all the drugs coming across this port here in the United States.
Yeah, that was Stephen McCraw. Stephen McCraw is the head of the Department of Public Safety. He, along with the National Guard and the governor of Texas, have created Operation Lone Star, their efforts to keep Texas and the country safe. But how do you like that? It's the New York threat, no longer the Bonanno family, Cosa Nostra mafia. It's the Mexican criminal cartels, Congressman.
This stuff's going all over the country, certainly to my state, right next to New York, New Jersey. This really should be called the Cartel Enhancement Plan. For real. I mean, and the sick and disturbing part of it is we were getting control of this. We were stopping it.
Yeah.
It was getting better. And to purposely allow this for all these, people to be coming over wearing Biden-Harris shirts and, just they're actually being encouraged to come into the United States, and we're breaking the law.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody seems to care about that anymore. The rule of law is something that guides this country always, or should, and did. And we're doing it in other ways, too, by the way. This administration, even in the way that it tries to rule everything by executive order, rather than doing things in legislation, rather than having a good debate over the issues, it's just one after another after another. We're literally going back to a monarchy in some ways.
Well, you make a good point, because Biden overturning Trump's border policies created a crisis at the border. Do we want to create a crisis for the economy? Do we want to create a crisis in foreign policy, getting us back into the Iran deal, raising taxes massively, raising spending massively? What's the story on the spending and tax plans? He wants to move another $4 trillion with the families plan and the quote-unquote infrastructure plan. Is that going to go through? He wants to pay for it by raising everybody's taxes with the biggest tax increases in decades. How much of a reality is this? Are you powerless to stop this?
I don't know that we're powerless, but one of the most unfortunate parts of what's been happening in this Congress is opposed to the last Congress. In the last Congress, there were a number of Democrats who sometimes on particular bills had enough and voted with the Republicans. I'm sure you've noticed that hasn't happened at all this time. She has whipped that caucus into a frenzy where they're voting every single time down the line and never thinking it through, as far as I'm concerned. And that's a shame, because there's still a few good people left there that could do better. So do I think it'll go through the House?
Well,
I think it's got a real good shot. I think it's going to have more of a problem, thank God, in the Senate. You certainly know I'm voting against it, because the bottom line is an economy that is basically good and can be good literally can easily be destroyed. We can have hyperinflation. We can have other issues that are going to come up because of this. We're certainly going to encourage corporations to leave and not to stay here. The whole idea was make sure that we're manufacturing here, that we have corporations here, that we're bringing business back here, that we are strong in dealing with China. Maria, do you realize when we deal with China now, we're dealing on our knees? We were much stronger before, whether it's China or Iran or North Korea, any of these countries. And what we're doing is just so shameful. We're becoming a weaker country, spending much more money than we ever should, obsessed with trivial things like whether we can literally have somebody by the name of Prince Charming anymore. I don't know if you read that one. They're going to change that.
I did,
no longer.
Yeah, we're worried about the kiss. We're worried about the kiss that Prince Charming gave Snow White. And the Chinese are laughing their butts off, the Communist Party. Nobody knows more about this tax situation and its impact than Steve Forbes, really among the smartest out there in terms of what a good tax cut plan and deregulatory plan means for the economy and its impact. Steve, weigh in here on this massive out-of-control spending and tax increases.
Well, the congressman is right. It's going to hurt the economy. The economy would roar ahead, but the government is creating these crazy headwinds. And I'm wondering, Congressman, are the Republicans going to come up with an alternative tax plan, like a flat tax or a big tax cut, like we did before Reagan became president, as a stark alternative to what the Democrats are doing, going offense with good policies like that, big tax cut plans or other things to help the economy, help small businesses?
I certainly think there are a number of us that want to do that. I always say one important thing, and when we regain the majority next year, and we are, I believe we are, we can't just be there saying, no, we don't agree with what was done in the past. We don't have a plan. But
to get that majority, you need something, a good policy out there that can excite the voters as a vivid contrast to what the Democrats are offering. Is there anything happening like that in past Congresses? I remember back in the 1970s, we came up with Kemp Roth. Can we come up with something like that today?
And I believe in middle class tax cuts too. Let's really help the folks in the middle, because everybody's saying how great everything is. It's not. First of all, we have an employment problem. You know all about that already. We don't have people to work because of the policies we've set and the way we've done unemployment. Secondly, we have a problem in that we really need to make sure that our middle class thrives. And actually, the cost of a lot of things are going up. You know what the cost of gas is, and it's going to keep going up. Lumber, construction material, really important stuff.
Yeah, lumber's out of control right now. Yep, absolutely. All right, we are waiting on the jobs numbers. We're going to get those jobs numbers in a moment, so we will say goodbye for now, Jeff Van Drew, but it is great to see you. Thanks for your insights this morning, Congressman.